Welcome back, dear viewers. Now we will move to a live coverage to the opening session of the Arab Foreign Ministers meeting in Cairo in its 156th session under the chairmanship of Kuwait. The Arab Foreign Ministers discuss a number of files, on top of which the Palestinian cause.
Efforts of the State of Qatar to provide humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people. Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani
في شهر مايو الماضي بتخصيص منحة بقيمة $500 مليون لإعادة إعمار قطاع غزة. كما استضافت دولة قطر اجتماعا طارئا لمجلس الجامعة على مستوى وزراء الخارجية يوم 15 يونيو 2021 لبحث الجرائم والاعتداءات الإسرائيلية في مدينة القدس المحتلة والمقدسات الإسلامية والمسيحية، والاعتداء على المصلين بالإضافة إلى الاعتداءات الوحشية والمخططات للاستيلاء.
To the atrocious attacks on the houses of people, especially in Sheikh Jarrah in Jerusalem, in an attempt to evacuate the city from its people. Within the framework of coordination and consultation regarding the Arab status quo and supporting the Arab joint action regarding the challenges facing the Arab region, Doha has also hosted a consultative meeting for the foreign ministers of Arab states on the June 2021 and another meeting regarding the Renaissance Dam, during which they re-emphasized the Arab full support to the Arab and Sudanese stances regarding this issue. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, the issue and the Palestinian cause has been always and will always be the main Arab cause, and the continuous occupation of the Palestinian lands and the illegitimate practices resulting from that, in particular the expansion with the changing of the city, as well as the attacks on Gaza Strip, will lead to more escalations and instability. And protecting the rights of the Palestinians and the right to self-autonomy, as well as establishing the state of Palestine according to the borders of 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital, and putting an end to the Israeli occupation for all the Arab occupied lands, including Golan and the Lebanese lands, is the only tool to achieve stability, peace and security in this region of the world. The State of Qatar emphasizes its support to the Palestinians and holding on to the Arab stance, emphasizing that peace is the strategic option and it is the permanent, comprehensive, just solution based on the two-state solution according to the international resolutions and decisions. And the State of Qatar will continue working with all international entities to overcome the challenges and difficulties facing the resumption of peace talks. And the State of Qatar won't save any efforts in evaluating and providing all support to the Palestinians until they enjoy all their just rights. We renew our call to the Palestinians to hold on to the option of unity and to focus on the state interest and the national interest so as to unite all Palestinians, and this is the optimum means to struggling the Israelis and enjoying their full rights. Your Excellencies, Your Highnesses, the Palestinian cause is so important, and there is also the Syrian cause that is still going, escalating, that has resulted into a humanitarian suffering for the Syrians, and this went on along with the Syrian practices. It's time for the Syrians to enjoy a peaceful life. And peaceful life won't be achieved for the Syrians except through a political solution that would meet the needs and the aspirations of the Syrians according to Geneva's resolution and the resolutions of the Security Council in a way that would protect the integrity of the Syrian territories and would meet the aspirations and ambitions of the Syrians, as well as achieving justice through prosecuting the criminals according to the international law. At the level of the Yemeni crisis, crisis, Qatar emphasizes its stance to protect the unity and the stability of Yemen and putting an end to the conflict and adopting diplomacy, national reconciliation as the foundation for putting an end to this crisis, as well as emphasizing the resolutions of the Security Council, especially 2216. And the state of Qatar renews its calls to all Yemenis to give top priority to the national interest and putting an end to the military escalation and go back to the national dialogue outcomes that was agreed upon by all factions in Yemen. Regarding Libya, the state of Qatar emphasizes its commitment to full support to the state of Libya, its integrity and its sovereignty, and we are against all forms of international intervention in the internal affairs of Libya. We'd like to welcome all the Arab regional and international efforts exerted to hold the public elections in Libya on time, the 24th of December 2021. In a way that would achieve stability of the country and would secure its sovereignty, the integrity of its territories and its people. We are honored to call upon Sheikh Dr. Ahmed Nasser and Mohammed al-Sabah, the Foreign Minister and the Minister of the State for the Cabinet Affairs in Kuwait, the head of the delegate of Kuwait, the current president of this session 156, wishing him the best of luck and to deliver his speech. Finally, I wish that this meeting would achieve its goals. Peace be upon you all. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, peace and blessing be upon Prophet Muhammad, his family and his companions. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of Arab countries, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, brothers and sisters, distinguished guests, peace be upon you all. I would like to announce the inauguration of the proceedings of the ordinary session of the League of Arab States, the 156th session at the ministerial level at the outset. I would like to extend deep thanks and appreciation to the state of Qatar and my brother Sheikh Mohammed bin Rahman Al Thani, the Deputy Prime Minister of Qatar, for presiding over the former 155 session of the League of Arab States, commending all the efforts you exerted towards enhancing and boosting the joint Arab action while Qatar presided over the presidency. I would like also to commend the efforts exerted by Brother Ahmed Abul Ghait, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, emphasizing that while he is assuming his second term, that we are providing our continuous support to this deeply rooted organization and its noble message, and deep thanks to the Secretariat of the League of Arab States for all the efforts they exerted in the distinguished preparation for this meeting that comes in a known innovative way through the virtual meetings without any papers. And this is an important step to develop the methods and the proceedings and the work of the League of Arab States to keep in pace with the international developments. We would like also to congratulate Brother Ramtan Al Amamra, the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Algeria, for assuming his new post, wishing him the best of luck and success. And I would like also to welcome the participation of Mr. Philip Lazzarini, the representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations and the Commissioner of UNRWA, and Mr. Yanko, the head of the delegate of the United Nations to support Libya. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since the pandemic COVID-19, we've received figures and statistics in reports issued by the United Nations referring to the fact that unemployment has increased in our region for the year 2021 to be 12.5%, and there has been economic shrinkage that reaches up to 6%, as well as the presence of more than 51 million people suffering from hunger, which is about 12.2% of the population of the Arab region. This shows clearly that there is no state fully immunized from this pandemic or its repercussions and negative impacts. We are not immunized at all. Thus, uniting our international efforts and Arab efforts in this context is inevitable, and it is not just an option. Thus, we call upon more coordinated, harmonized cooperation between all of us to support the health systems and to integrate together in dealing with the repercussions of this issue regarding food security and its impact on education to prevent having lost generations, and we are looking forward to more cooperation regarding ITC. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our current session is convened while we are still facing grave challenges in our Arab region and very critical circumstances that overshadow the Arab and regional systems and influenced all our Arab countries without any exception. Consequently, we need to give priority to Arab coordination regarding our urgent causes and the importance of adopting constructive dialogue and accepting different viewpoints with the goal of coming up with solutions to our problems in the region and thinking of the future of the joint Arab action, as well as symbolizing our mechanisms and giving new horizons and opportunities for cooperation, as well as providing real support to the League of Arab States and providing it with the potentials, capabilities, mechanisms and tools to enable it to practice its effective influential role and move forward with the process of its development, as well as adopting the mechanisms that would develop its performance and turn the joint Arab action into a sustainable action that can adapt with the continuous accelerating changes surrounding us. The recent developments we witnessed in Afghanistan and its political security impacts on the region call upon us all to unite our efforts to face such a challenge. Consequently, we would like to emphasize the importance of going on with the new method of action that we started adopting by holding the ministerial consultative meetings representing a fertile land for discussing our important issues and an opportunity to share points of views and experiences within a framework of honesty and transparency, apart from the conventional traditional methods, commending the efforts exerted by the State of Qatar in holding the first ministerial consultative meeting last June in Doha, and we are looking forward to meeting Your Excellencies in the second ministerial consultative meeting that would be held in Kuwait in the future. The State of Kuwait will continue its efforts while presiding over this session to give momentum to the joint Arab action to serve the goals of the Charter of the League of Arab States, and will continue our strenuous efforts to clarify the environment and to narrow the gap between different countries to achieve joint Arab action and emphasize the strong brotherly links and relations between our Arab countries. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we're standing here today to renew our support to the Palestinian cause the just cause that is considered to be the main pillar of peace in the Arab region and the Middle East, and one of the main components of stability in our region. The events and the developments that took place last May, as well as the aggression on the Palestinian territories, has given new momentum to this cause. It was reflected in the international reactions that all agreed on the importance of resuming the peace process and finding an end to this long-term struggle. The resolution 8660 that was issued on May 2021 has shouldered the responsibility of the crimes, the aggressions and the violations to Israel, as it is violating the resolutions of the Security Council as well as the international law, and we called for providing protection to the Palestinians. In this context, we'd like to emphasize our preliminary fixed stance in supporting the choice of the Palestinians to enjoy their just rights, and our call to revive the peace process on its sound basis, the international legitimacy, as well as urging all international parties, including the Quartet, to take the practical steps to launch credible talks and negotiations that would deal with all the issues pertaining to a final solution, as well as full withdrawal from the Arab occupied territories and finding a just solution to the issue of Palestinian refugees, as well as establishing an independent Palestinian state with full sovereignty according to the borders of 1967, with East Jerusalem as its capital according to the international legitimacy laws and the Arab Peace Initiative. We renew also our invitation to the international community to support UNRWA, emphasizing our continuous support to the pivotal role played by UNRWA in providing health services, education, and relief to the Palestinians. Regarding the Yemeni crisis that has been through its 7th year, and in light of the sufferings and the deterioration of the humanitarian and health conditions in Yemen due to the continuity of this crisis, as well as the repercussions of the spread of pandemics and the pandemic COVID-19, we announce our full support to Saudi Arabia to come up with a peaceful solution to the crisis in Yemen, as well as implement an agreement between the legitimate council as well as the transitional council. We would like to emphasize our fixed stance that the political solution is the only means to solve this crisis. It should be based on the 3 resolutions of the Security Council, in particular 2216, as well as supporting the efforts of the new envoy of the United Nations to Yemen, Mr. Hans Gonderk. And we'd like to emphasize our concerns regarding the military escalations witnessed now by some Yemeni cities. We denounce all the attacks and the aggressions using missiles, as well as attacks that are faced by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on part of the Houthi militia. We would like to emphasize our support to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia regarding all the measures it takes to protect its security and sovereignty, as the security of Saudi Arabia is part and parcel of the Arab National Council and national security. Regarding Iraq, we commend what was done through Baghdad Summit for cooperation and partnership that was recently held in the capital Baghdad, and we commend all the outcomes that would serve the security and stability of Iraq, and this would reflect on the stability of the whole region. Here we'd like to confirm our support to the stability of Iraq that is going through a difficult condition, represented in the parliamentary elections that would be held on the 10th of October 2021, that necessitates the support of the neighboring countries and the international community. to enable the Iraqi government to inculcate the components of its independence and the integrity of its territories without any intervention in its internal affairs to meet the aspirations and the ambitions of the Iraqi people. Regarding the Syrian cause, we believe that there is no military solution to this crisis, and the only solution is through a political settlement according to the resolution of Security Council 2254, and going on with establishing a constitutional commission as well as providing humanitarian aids according to the resolution 2528 to meet the aspirations of the Syrians. Here we would like to confirm that Julan, the occupied lands of Syria, is an Arab-occupied land on part of Israel, and this violates flagrantly the Charter of the United Nations and the resolutions of the Security Council. In this context, we would like to commend the efforts exerted by the envoy of the United Nations to Syria, Mr. Geert Peterson. Regarding the Libyan issue, we'd like to emphasize the importance of reaching an agreement regarding political security, constitutional decisions that would lead to holding the national elections on the 24th of December 2021. As well as continuing the work of the Commission 5+5 under the auspices of the United Nations in a way that would achieve the goals of the Libyans and put an end to all foreign interventions, as this threats security and stability in Libya, and it also threatens the security of the Arab region. We'd like to emphasize the importance of implementing Berlin resolutions, as well as the statement made by the Security Council in 2021. We'd like to emphasize the fact that we are continuing our support to the efforts of Envoy Yankovic, the Envoy of United Nations to Libya, to settle the crisis in Libya. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we express our full support to the Arab Republic of Egypt and the Republic of Sudan in solving the problem of filling in and operating the Renaissance Dam. And we are against any unilateral decision that would harm their interest, because we believe that the water security of Sudan and Egypt is part and parcel of the Arab national security. We are supporting all regional and international efforts aiming at putting an end to this file in a way that would protect the interests of all parties according to the international law and the Declaration of Principles that was signed by Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan in the year 2015. We would like to emphasize our concern regarding the adverse effects of threatening the maritime and navigation in the international territorial waters according to the agreement of the water security, and this should be protected in the Gulf. And they should protect also the power lines and power networks, and we are supporting the presidential decision that was made last August regarding the maritime security. This statement has mentioned all the international instruments that would protect these water pathways and waterways, as this is the main channel for the international economy. It is important to hold on to all international relevant instruments, on top of which is the Convention of the United Nations for sea security and sea law, as well as the UN Convention for Fighting Organized Transnational Crime for the year 2000, looking forward to cooperating with the international community to achieve the stability and the security, as well as the flow of international trade. Finally, we'd like to emphasize that we are against all forms of international interventions that harm the sovereignty of any of the Arab brotherly countries, emphasizing the fact that we are against any intervention in the affairs of the Arab countries, as this is considered to be a flagrant violation of the sovereignty of the states and is against all legal laws and principles. I pray to Allah to crown all our efforts with success for achieving the interest of our people, the Arab countries, and achieve their aspirations and hopes. Peace be upon you all. And now I will give the floor to the Secretary General of the League of Arab States. The floor is yours, sir. Brother and friend Dr. Ahmed Nasser al-Muhammad al-Sabbah, Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister of Kuwait, the President of the 156th Ordinary Session of the League of Arab States at the ministerial level. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me at the outset extend congratulations to Your Excellency, the Minister, for assuming the presidency of this ordinary session of the Ministerial Council. Wishing you all success. I would like also to extend thanks to Brother Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, the Foreign Minister of the State of Qatar, who led the proceedings of the previous session excellently, as well as my brother Minister Sultan Al Merihi. I would like to welcome the ministers who joined recently the Ministerial Council, Mr. Ramadan Al-Amamra, the Foreign Minister of Algeria, Minister Dina Akar, the Foreign Minister in the Republic of Lebanon. Your Excellency, the chairperson, the Arab world is still witnessing the status of crisis at different levels, be it health crisis due to COVID-19 and its different repercussions on the growth rates and international trade, as well as economic activities, in addition to other security and political continuous crisis that had lasted for almost a decade in a number of Arab countries without a real will to a solution, as well as a very high cost on different levels. During the previous months, we have witnessed very good developments and positive achievements that we need to build upon. The stance of the Palestinians against the Israeli occupation last May showed that the Palestinian cause is still alive and vivid and is capable of mobilizing international support, and it enjoys Arab consensus on its main principles and rules. This round of confrontations resulted into the fact that the Palestinian cause has enjoyed its ethical, humanitarian, political essence. It became clear that the alternative to the two-state solution is going on with the occupation system based on forced migration of people and racism. Launching the peace process on the basis of the two-state solution and getting back to the borders of 1967 is the only solution to a real, permanent, comprehensive peace in the region. The League of Arab States welcomes all the steps and efforts exerted right now to reach this purpose, including the efforts to achieve the Palestinian reconciliation and the reconstruction of Gaza as very important necessary steps to support the Palestinian cause politically and to support the Palestinians who are resisting in Jerusalem, Gaza, and all the Palestinian cities. Here, I would like to refer to the economic and financial difficulties faced by the Palestinians, and this necessitates providing them with assistance and support during the coming period. Of course, UNRWA is one of the important tools that can help with that. At the regional level, the regional non-Arab powers are still practicing powers that in a number of Arab countries and extend the crises in these countries. Yemen is an important example, as an external agenda is being implemented in Yemen against Arab countries and threatening their security. And this is a status that cannot go on, because those who pay the real price for the Yemeni war is the Yemeni people, who are suffering a humanitarian difficulty right now. As 80% of the Yemenis are in need for assistance, we would like to emphasize once more that full ceasefire nationwide in Yemen represents the first step towards achieving a political settlement that might lead to comprehensive peace in this country in a way that would protect the integrity of its territories and its sovereignty and unity, and in a way that would keep its historical relations with the neighboring countries. We are supporting the Lebanese people in this dilemma, and we emphasize the importance of getting it out of any polarization in the region. The developments that took place in this country dear to our hearts and the sufferings people are facing is unfortunate. Once more, we emphasize that forming a Lebanese new government and implementing it is considered to be the key to getting Lebanon out of this crisis that has aggravated over a year. And the different indicators raise our concerns, and this enables us to shoulder our responsibility towards the country and towards history. In Libya, the 24th of December 21 is the date of the elections, and it is considered to be an important critical step that is acknowledged at the international level on the path of Libyan independence. I would like to call upon our brothers in Libya through the National Dialogue meeting to accelerate their agreement on the needed constitutional foundation for holding the elections, emphasizing the importance of implementing the outcomes of Berlin II summit, as well as the summit of the neighboring countries that was held last month. On top of which is the fact that the mercenary and all foreign fighters and foreign forces should withdraw from Libya, as this is an important precondition for achieving stability in Libya on the regional level in general. Your Excellency, the President, no doubt the summit of Baghdad for cooperation and partnership that was held on the 28th of August 2021 sends an important message to all parties supporting the sovereignty of Iraq, and getting it out of polarization and struggles is the main key to the stability of the Middle East. Flourishing, stable, safe Iraq is for the interest of all the neighboring countries. Dialogue with the regional parties, as we understand and look forward to, should be based on the ground of respecting the Arab national state and on the basis of non-intervention in the internal affairs of countries, as well as giving up racism as well as different sectarian interests. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the whole world is looking forward to things that are related to climate change. Climate change is a phenomenon that the Arab region is one of the regions that is harmed by its different impacts. And we expect that Egypt will host COP27, the climate summit, next year, and Emirates wants to host COP28, and we wish that they would be supported by the League of Arab States to host this conference. And we're looking forward to these two summits to provide the opportunity to Arab countries to highlight the priorities of the region and its concerns regarding climate change, as it is considered to be the issue of the present and the future together. At the end of my speech, I would like to pay your attention to the fact that this session and under the presidency of Kuwait is held for the first time without paper. It is a paperless summit, so we moved on to the paperless electronic system fully, as you have just noticed. And this is a qualitative leap in the work of the Secretariat of the League of Arab States. Here, I would like to extend thanks to all those who contributed to the success of this important work, the Secretariat, its staff, the experts and technicians. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States. And now I will give the floor to Mr. Philip Lazzarini, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations and the representative of UNRWA.
Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, thank you for the regular invitation to UNRWA to address this forum, which shows the importance you attach to the issue of Palestinian refugees. As I stand before this council today, 4 of the 5 fields where UNRWA operates are in severe crisis, and the devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic continues to sweep through the Palestinian refugees communities. In this context, UNRWA provides critical and life-saving services to some of the most marginalized and underprivileged population in the region. And this month, more than 500,000 girls and boys have gone back to UNRWA schools. These children are often the only light and hope when the conflict remains unresolved. Excellencies, it really pains me as UNRWA Commissioner General to have to present great achievements by the agency and at the same time to plead for the resource to continue achieving. One would think that in the absence of a political solution which can put an end to the plight of Palestinian refugees, there would be no need to constantly run after funding. One would think that maintaining and supporting such a steady source of stability in the region would always be the strategic and human thing to do. In reality, UNRWA struggles every year to keep its program running and delivering much-needed assistance. This year, we welcomed the return of the United States among our largest donors. And whilst the European and other traditional donors have remained steadfast in their support, they struggle to sustain high levels of funding as the pandemic hits their economies. Here, I would like also to say a word about the ferocious, politically motivated campaign the agency faces. UNRWA's opponents seem to believe that harming its reputation and trying to close it down will erase 5.7 million Palestinian refugees. To those who question the agency mandate, I say the UNRWA mandate is almost unanimously adopted at the UN General Assembly, and it will take only the General Assembly to question the mandate that it gives. To those who question the status of Palestinian refugees, I say find a political solution that includes a just and lasting solution to their plights. UNRWA is irreplaceable. Thousands of Palestinian refugees have played an important role in the development of younger nations in the region. Most of them were educated in UNRWA school, where we continue to provide quality education based on human rights and humanitarian values. In a region rife with conflict and crisis, UNRWA is key to stability. It is key to safeguarding international human rights and key to the well-being of millions of Palestinian refugees. Excellencies, the mandate of UNRWA is a common responsibility, and the stability of the region our common interest. I appeal to members of this Council to match the generosity of the countries that host Palestinian refugees by funding the agency that provides them with health, education, and social services. I invite you to actively be part of the strategic discussion around the modernization of UNRWA and to attend the international conference which will be hosted by Jordan and Sweden to ensure we are partners in supporting Palestinian refugees on their journey to self-reliance. Together, we can continue to give every Palestinian refugee's child the means to pursue the future he or she wants. Loy Albazioni is part of a team that worked at NASA to send an helicopter to Mars. He went to an UNRWA school in Gaza. Since the 1990s, our microfinance program has contributed towards sustaining or creating more than 700,000 jobs in the region. Most of the UNRWA 28,000 staff are Palestinian refugees themselves. These are all achievements to celebrate. When 15-year-old Maria in Ein el-Helwa camp started to give a presentation she had proudly prepared for my visit, she broke down in tears unexpectedly. Maria has 4 siblings. In their household, there is 1 smartphone with limited access to internet. Maria talked about a dream to study at Oxford and a fear that she would not be able to do so because she has no access to digital learning. For Maria and for thousands of young minds like hers, we must keep the hope alive. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I wish to again express my deep gratitude to you for generously giving me this platform to continue to call for solidarity with Palestinian refugees. Thank you.
أشكر السيد فيليب
Thank you,
لازاريني.
Mr. Philip Lazzarini, for your speech. And now I give the floor to Mr. Yankovic, the special envoy of the United Nations to Libya and the head of UN delegate to support Libya.
Excellency, the Chairman of this ministerial session, Excellencies, dear Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset I would like to thank the League of Arab States for inviting me to address this important meeting with some updates on Libya to complement what Foreign Minister Mangoush might like to say about the developments in the country. In the past days, I held consultations in Libya with a wide range of actors, leaders, officials, including Her Excellency Minister Mangoush, and some representatives of civil society groups to discuss how to safeguard and advance the course to national, inclusive, free and fair parliamentary and presidential elections this December, and progress on other files: security, economic and human rights, humanitarian, established and followed by the Berlin process. All interlocutors reiterated their commitment to holding the elections on the 24th of December, and the government has provided the necessary funding for the High National Election Commission and works on security measures to ensure safe conduct of the elections. In the meantime, the House of Representatives, the Parliament, is in the process of finalizing electoral laws for both presidential and parliamentary elections. I was informed by the HOR President, Mr. Saleh, that the presidential electoral law was already adopted as Law Number 1, 2021, while the parliamentary elections can be organized on the basis of the existing law with possible amendments that could be considered and approved within the coming 2 weeks. Against this backdrop, the High National Election Commission has been continuing with the preparations for the elections that can be done in the absence of the legislative framework, including voter registration that has reached a total of 2.86 million registrants, and 43% of them women. Work on registration for out-of-country voting is ongoing in consultation with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and will require cooperation and support from countries hosting Libyan citizens. In order to help ensure integrity of the electoral process and acceptability of its results, international and domestic observation of the whole process is critical. I urge all Member States and regional organizations, including the Arab League and its members, to send observation teams in coordination with Libyan authorities and institutions, notably the High National Election Commission and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, when the time will come. Excellencies, today the Central Bank Governor and Deputy Governor intend to brief the Berlin Process Economic Working Group, co-chaired by Egypt, to provide an update on the plan and initial steps to implement the recommendations of the audit report on the unification of the central bank and to proceed with the unification process. The government and the Presidential Council have confirmed their willingness to support this process. Excellencies, on the security front, the persistent effort of the 5+5 Joint Military Commission, assisted by the Executive Authority, the Government and the Presidential Council, led recently to the reopening of the Misrata-Sirt coastal road with the support of UNSMIL and UNMOS. The people of Libya warmly welcome this development that brings clear benefits for all Libyans. Nevertheless, the continued presence of mercenaries, foreign fighters and foreign forces remains a cause of concern for Libya and the international community, including neighboring countries. The Security Council, in a number of resolutions, notably in the Security Council Resolution 2570 and in recent statement of the 15th of July, strongly urged all Member States, all Libyan parties and all relevant actors to respect and support the full implementation of the 23rd of October 2020 ceasefire agreement, including through the withdrawal of all mercenaries, foreign fighters and foreign forces from Libya without delay. To ensure gradual build-up towards full implementation of the ceasefire agreement, the 5+5 JMC intends to develop an action plan for a sequenced and phased verifiable withdrawal, starting with the withdrawal of mercenaries and foreign fighters. The intention is to consult this plan with the respective international partners, including Libyan neighbours, and seek their support and cooperation. We also support efforts led by Foreign Minister Mangush on the Stabilisation Initiative that has similar objectives. This Libya-led and owned initiative intends to help operationalise the ceasefire agreement and Berlin Conference's conclusions. Excellencies, at the initiative of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, an important and timely ministerial meeting of the neighbouring countries with Libya was held in Algiers on the 30th and 31st of August this year, chaired by His Excellency Minister Lamamra. The ministers reaffirmed the central role of the mechanism of the neighbouring countries in support of the UN-facilitated process in Libya and the highest importance of consultation and work on coordination between the Joint Military Commission 5+5 and the Libyan neighbours on the issue of the withdrawal of mercenaries and foreign forces to establish an effective mechanism and process between the Libyans and neighbouring countries. The ministers also stressed the importance of ensuring enhanced coordination, synergy and integration between the efforts of the United Nations, the League of Arab States, the African Union and the European Union, which work closely with neighbouring countries. The ministers finally welcomed the proposal of the Arab Republic of Egypt to host the next meeting of foreign ministers of the neighbouring countries of Libya at a date to be agreed upon later. These are good news and shows both an opportunity and need to enhance cooperation of the countries of the region and their organizations with the United Nations and with Libya on stabilization of the country. Excellencies, withdrawal of foreign fighters and armed groups has to be accompanied by scaled-up efforts across Libya and the wider region to address root causes of instability, notably through inclusive reconciliation, peace-building and development programs with a focus on youth, on women empowerment, coordinated complementary measures and programs supported and co-financed by the international community, coupled with resolute international action against criminal traffickers of people, weapons and drugs, and cooperative measures to enhance control in the border areas, including integrated border control and management, must be a part of the solution if it's to be durable and sustainable. Here, partnership of the United Nations, LAS, African Union and European Union is critical, as it, from the broader perspective, the coordination role of the quartet of these organizations, as highlighted in its last meeting hosted by the Arab League. Excellencies, the international community needs to increase its collective and bilateral engagement to address the causes fueling irregular movements of people and to provide legal pathways to avoid the continuing loss of lives on the central Mediterranean route. Such arrangements or agreements should reflect Libya and neighboring countries' responsibility to uphold the international principle of non-refoulement that includes halting all collective expulsions of migrants and asylum seekers while facilitating voluntary humanitarian evacuation, return and resettlement flights. I hope to see soon a resumption of such flights that have been unfortunately recently again halted, and urge the respective Libyan authorities to facilitate that without further delay in cooperation with the United Nations, notably IOM and UNHCR. Excellencies, it is important that Libya and neighboring countries manage and control their borders. Positive developments in this regard are bilateral agreements currently being negotiated between Egypt and Niger with Libya towards managing migration flows. At the same time, efforts to sign and operationalize bilateral and multilateral agreements to promote security and cross-border cooperation between countries sharing a common border with Libya are essential in maintaining regional security, fostering economic development, and building trust for closer cooperation between themselves and with Libya. The Border Management Quartet Agreement between Libya, Sudan, Chad and Niger is a positive example of multilateral cooperation in securing common borders and tackling transnational crime, violent extremist activities of diverse armed groups. Excellencies, Libya is at a critical stage where the significant achievements and progress of the past period must be consolidated to continue the political transition towards a unified, fully sovereign, peaceful and stable country. As stated recently in Algeria by Secretary General His Excellency Abu Ghait, the momentum of these developments must be maintained so that the sought-after outcomes can be reached. This is important not just for the Libyan people, but for the region as a whole. Continued, concerted and aligned efforts of neighboring and regional countries and their organizations, as well as the broader international community, are essential to support and encourage the various sides and parties in Libya to work together for the unification of state institutions and the full implementation of the ceasefire agreement, deliver needed services, protect and promote human rights, justice and accountability for Libyans and migrants, and set the stage for holding the parliamentary and presidential elections on the 24th of December. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Yankovic, for your speech. And in the name of this Honorable Ministerial Council, we would like to extend thanks to Mr. Yankovic and Mr. Philip Lazzarini for their speeches and presenting their mandates, and we wish them the best of luck. And now, by the end of the first opening session, I would like to extend thanks to all the guests, media professionals, journalists, and ask them to leave the room to start the first closed session. Thank you.